What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode. John, welcome to the platform. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you, man.
I'm really excited to get into this.
Yeah.
For everybody that's listening, John is a judicial candidate for the 7th Circuit Court, probate judge.
That's right.
But of course, he has a immaculate history just with the criminal legal system.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna get into some of that and just your background, and then
Sure.
also just the importance of the court, the judge position that you're running for,
Absolutely.
and how that affects community and things. Some of the things that you've seen.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
let's get straight into it.
Let's go.
So how you been? How's life?
Man, I'm good, man. Just trying to get through these COVID times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got 2 little girls and a wife, and we just, we're trying to make it.
Yeah.
School and all the stuff, all the hurdles. There's so many
Right.
hurdles
Right.
right now, and I've left the court so I can run, and so but that was a whole different set of hurdles. Just trying
Right.
to get court going
Right.
and keep things moving for the city. So
Right.
yeah, I'm good though, man. I'm good. I'm encouraged. We on this grind right now,
Right.
trying to win this election.
Now you are a Nashville native,
Yeah,
and we grew up in the same area.
That's right. Bordeaux.
And so
Bordeaux.
Bordeaux, Bordeaux, however you want to say it.
Yeah. However you want to spell it.
However you want to spell it. And so I think because we unicorns now,
Yeah.
man, and I think it's something to be said about when we have people that's from here
Yep.
running these positions,
Yep.
because you have a different lens, a different
Absolutely.
passion,
Absolutely.
and different perspective, right, on Nashville, because you've been here all your life,
Right.
Your parents,
Yep. Yep.
And when I was doing the research on you, man, I didn't know that your father had established it's the oldest African American law firm.
That's right.
In
That's
Nashville.
right. That's right. And it didn't used to be. Of course, there were others.
Yeah,
but
it was others.
as time goes,
Right.
He's been around since 1976.
Right.
And we still going.
Yeah,
we still
that's
So,
amazing.
Yeah, man. It's great to see him do his thing.
And so, man, let's talk about that, man.
Yeah.
Just growing up here in Nashville, North Nashville, and
Yep.
what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I can luckily my mother's side of the family, we can go all the way back to Shelbyville, several generations. So it's kind of cool to be able to track my history through Nashville.
Right.
My great grandfather was the principal of Pearl High.
Really?
John Alfred Galloway. I'm named after him, John Alfred Galloway, back in the 30s, 40s.
Wow.
He was the principal of Pearl High School.
Which is now MLK.
Which is now MLK. That's right, which is now MLK, that building. And, of course, you got Pearl Cone, and they merged.
Right.
But, way back when, my grandmother and all my aunts, great aunts, rather, taught at Pearl and taught at Cameron. And, it was a bunch of educators, right? And so then my mom's born and raised here. My grandma's born and raised here. And, we just go way back through Nashville. And my dad came from Ohio. He's from Dayton and went to Fisk.
Okay.
And I never left. He went to Fisk, and then he ended up at Vanderbilt Law School, and that's where my parents met at Vandy Law. And, and here we are. Here we are, Nashville.
How was it? What are some of the? It ain't hit Bordeaux yet.
Right.
It's some of the they expanded Clarksville Highway.
Yeah, we'll see. We're gonna see.
The writing is kind of on the wall a little bit.
Right.
But growing up here, man, what are you seeing as some of the things that with the growth of Nashville, for like 100 people coming here a day?
Yeah.
What can you call out some of the, I guess, the benefits of that?
Sure.
But also, what are some of the things maybe you feel like we may be losing?
Absolutely.
Some of the things we enjoyed growing up here, right?
Yeah, yes. Well, I think it's great. Growth is always great. I had the chance to live in Atlanta. I went to Morehouse for college, and then I lived in D.C. and went to Howard for law school. And so, I had a good HBCU experience in both cities, and you just get to see bigger cities, right? Atlanta maybe not so much anymore based on what Nashville's like now, but D.C., and then you can go to New York and Philly, and all those places are right there. And so it's cool to see what a city looks like. When I left Nashville, it was 1996, and they're just not the same Nashville, right? I mean, it was still kind of a small town, still trying to figure itself out. I really like. There's a different vibe You go downtown, it's a different vibe, and I don't think
Right.
it's necessarily bad, right?
Right.
Back in the day, you wouldn't necessarily want to be on Second Avenue, right? It's a little
Right.
seedy. It's kind of dangerous over there. Now, it might be this place to go. Or Broadway,
Right.
it's popping. You got the NFL coming here and doing
Right.
stuff, and so all of that is positive. And I think it's good to have Nashville be out here.
Right.
You lose though some of its authenticity. And it's difficult sometimes to see some places close that you love. Princess Hot Chicken burned down up on Dickinson. Now, yes, they have other locations, and so you didn't lose it. But still, that's
Right. It's a pillar.
that's a pillar. That's a place you go. You get chicken, and it was an experience
Right.
as a Nashvilleian, or even when you bring people from out of town, they get to experience that. So
Right.
you lose some things like that, and you lose some of the. I worry sometimes about everything kind of starting to look alike. They're building so many new buildings, which is wonderful, but everybody just picked this sort of glass mirror thing, right?
Right.
And there's so many buildings that are exactly the same. And so
Right.
so I'm hoping somebody gets in here and says, let me do something different.
Right.
We keep having new companies move and new companies come in, and I'm hoping some of them in the future decide to change it up just a little bit. So,
Right.
But so it's good and it's bad. It's good and it's bad. But as long as we can get these tourists in here and spending their tourism dollars,
Right.
if we can
There's
use that
opportunities.
there's opportunities. We use that
Right.
money correctly, and there's opportunities for new businesses.
Right.
All kinds of things that I think Nashville can accomplish.
Now you talked about we talked about a little bit off camera
Yeah.
how we both kind of treasonous about not going to White Creek,
Right.
But you went to private school,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
University
School.
University school, right? That's a different demographic,
Very
and different environment and
Right.
space than in Bordeaux, North
Right.
Nashville, right?
Right.
How was it navigating essentially kind of two worlds?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, both my parents really were very intentional about me learning how to do that. Right? They didn't just let me go to USN and be only there.
Right.
They made sure I did Jack and Jill. Dad would take me over on Jefferson Street, get my hair cut. Dad would, make sure I met the community. He didn't want me to be thinking I was separate from that, or somehow better or somehow different. Like, this is your community. Just
Right.
because you go to that school and you have friends at that school doesn't mean you're not a part of this as well.
Right.
And so I got a lot. Now, I will say, I ended up at 2 HBCUs after that. And so, there was something, even with everything they did, I still needed that, right? I still needed that. And I love USN. My kids go to USN now. I think it's a wonderful school, very liberal, and a lot of values that I really appreciate even now that I got from there, and I hope my kids get too. But Morehouse was a great, wonderful thing that I needed.
Well, look, John, I ain't gonna waste no time. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
How is being a black man navigating? And I have to say it this way.
It's all right.
The criminal justice system,
Yeah.
criminal legal system.
Yeah.
Some people call it criminal punishment system.
Right.
And
It's
so,
real.
yeah, it's real. It's
Yeah.
real, right?
Yeah.
So, being a black man, how have you been able to navigate that
Sure.
and that double consciousness thing that we're going to have as black folks in general,
Right.
but it's especially in the criminal legal system.
Yeah. So, I always think about the last several years have been really difficult for black men in America. You see murder after murder after murder, and I don't mean that anecdotally, right? These people have been found guilty of murder. So we're talking about murders that have occurred across the country and sometimes across the world. And so you are fully cognizant of that.
Right.
Okay. Then I've got to also be the night court judge.
Right.
And deal literally every minute. I'm talking to the police. They come to me. They're asking me to grant warrants and deal with things. I am fortunate, and I can say this, I am fortunate to have not had ever any issues with Metro Nashville Police Department as a black man.
Okay.
I've been pulled over. Every y'all get pulled over for this or that. Or never had any issues. Never had any incidents. Never felt like anything was going to be wrong. Everything has been really fine with me. Now, in the last few years, have I been afraid? Absolutely.
Right.
I was who I was. I'm not in night court anymore. I had to resign to run for this position that I'm running for. But even as a judge in the system,
Right.
if they don't know who I am and things are going left, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And again, I say that's just a fear.
Right.
Because nothing's ever happened.
Right.
At least in Nashville. We can talk about other states another
Right.
time, but nothing's ever happened. So I'm faced with the dichotomy of I know the police, I'm cool with them. I know a lot of them by name. They call me Bowtie. I wear my bow ties all the time. They call me Bowtie. They know who I am. We're
Right.
cool. We hang out. They present warrants. I grant some of them. I don't grant some of them because that's the
Right.
job. Everybody's okay with that. We all understand our roles. I remember one conversation I had about 37208 with an officer. And it really sort of opened my eyes a little bit to what they're dealing with. He said, it's a white officer, he said, I'm not out here trying to harass people. I was stationed in 37208. So I do my job. I'm patrolling. I see something that's happening. I intervene and arrest if the crime is occurring. He's like, it's not my goal to try and bother these people only, right? But that's where they sent me.
Right.
That's where the powers that be said, we need to patrol over here. So you go over there, which is such an interesting, you don't really think about it, right?
Right.
And I think movies and stuff sort of portray it as police just kind of do whatever they want.
Right.
And the police are going, I'm going to go bother that guy just because I feel like it. Not all the time. I don't know, there's always bad apples. But for the most part, I really do think that a large number of the police just want to do their job.
Right.
And they just want to go home.
Well, with your job,
Yeah.
a magistrate,
Yeah.
it's been a big thing, and I'm interested to get your take on this around money bail, cash
Yeah.
bail.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, I would say probably more times than none, you all magistrates are the ones setting that
We
bail
are.
amount, right?
We are. That's us.
And there's a lot of talk, statewide, I would say, about money bail, cash bail. And I know maybe less than a year ago, Chattanooga had a big report come out. Basically, how they was doing his bail was unconstitutional, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, they put the light on, well, what is going on here in Nashville, right? With the capital.
Right.
Many people believe it shouldn't be a dollar amount associated with a body.
Yep.
As a person that, has to sit bail or has sit bail, right? What are your thoughts on money bail, cash bail reform? What are we doing? Because a lot of people don't understand it.
Yep.
You don't have to elaborate on all that because I know it's complex.
It's very
But,
I'll try to be brief though. But yeah.
And so you elaborate on that in far as associating, just a human body with money, but also walk people through how are you setting that bail amount? Because people are saying, well, if we have similar criminal records and we are like first time offenses, like how is my bail
so different?
So different. What is the what matrix? What is going on? People don't know. So I want to take this opportunity for somebody that actually has done it to kind of break that down for us.
And it's interesting. I'm going to add another wrinkle to it.
Go ahead.
It's not even so much that I set bails differently for similarly situated people. It's that I may set it the same.
Right.
But you ain't got no money. So if you got a simple possession, for example, I might set your bail $1,000. I set a kid from Brentwood, same amount, $1,000. He gonna make a phone call and get his $100 and be gone. You can't make that call.
Right.
So it's not even so much about the system not treating people equally. It's that even if we do treat people equally, it's still not equal.
Right.
Because I can't.
People have different resources.
People have different resources, and it's very hard in a night court setting to address all of those things, right? You get a person comes in front of you, and there's so many factors we're looking at when we're setting bail. So this is us talking through it. You got safety to the city. You got likelihood the crime or offense will continue. If there's a victim of any kind, you want safety of that individual from the person that allegedly did the thing. And then you got, are they going to go to court?
Right.
So, and there's 7 or 8 more, but those are the primary ones that I'd like to focus on, okay? So if I'm thinking about, say I got an aggravated assault, deadly weapon. Somebody pulled a gun, pistol whipped somebody, robbed them, whatever they did. So your bail's you're not gonna like the number necessarily, because I'm thinking about you need to stay for a little while if I
Right.
can, because you're gonna go back out and rob somebody else, or you're gonna go out and
Right.
do that again. If you got a domestic violence situation, you're automatically staying 12 hours, and that's just because we have had situations in Nashville where people get out and go right back over there.
And that's like 50% of the.
That's 50% of the crime, as Judge Walker told y'all. That's 50% of the cases, and so we're dealing with a real problem, right? So there's so many other things to think about that it is difficult to really nail it down to. Well, this person looks like this person looks like that, and that's all we're thinking about, right? So
Is it any way to kind of is it any way to combat those disparities? Because it seems like it's affecting poor folks and black folks the most, right?
Yeah. There was a debate. We've had meetings, so we're in the middle of, or maybe toward the end of a bail reform in Nashville because of these cases that keep coming up and things that are not being done correctly. There's a statewide review. We're kind of in the place where, quite honestly, Nashville is the only county. Nashville's doing it the best out of every county in the state. We're doing it the best. Memphis is probably pretty close, right? But we're doing some things Memphis isn't doing because I've talked to them and they're not doing several things that we're doing. So we're doing it the best. Now, is the best good enough? I don't know. You got a couple arguments. Some people say, well, don't give bail at all. If a person gets arrested, make them stay and go to court. Because that allows you to have a full hearing, allows you to present whatever you need to present. Your mama can come and mortgage the house or whatever needs to happen so you can get out, or you can argue that you should be released, and maybe the judge can say, oh yeah, I agree with you, you can be released, and the DA will have a chance to argue that you shouldn't, and like you see on TV, like you see on Law and Order, they're arguing about bail. What night court tries to do is the least restrictive thing, with the intent that if you do get held, you're going to have a hearing in 48 hours.
Okay.
It is the district attorney's office has done a really good job of making sure that people have that hearing. That was another thing that they weren't doing down near Chattanooga. Having those hearings, making sure people get a voice as to, well, I can't pay that. This is why, and then there can be a discussion about what you're accused of and all of those things.
Right.
So we make decisions in night court without a lot of that information. And so it becomes a situation where you're just sort of like, well, this is your crime. I'm looking at your record. You don't really have anything here. For example, if you had a violent crime, but you have no violent history.
Right.
The first thing I'm thinking about, well, did this really, did it really happen? Like, this doesn't seem like the type of person. He's 35 years old, never had any, what happened? So then I'm listening to the officer tell me about why, this probably did happen, and here's what happened, here's what they were fighting about, and then, okay, you got that. That probably did happen. So then I shift over to, okay, well, what does this person do? What is this person's connections to the community? What is this person going to do if I let them go early? Right. Because, again, my goal is just to make sure you go to court. Right. So I pull them up on the video screen. We're going to have a conversation. You've been accused of this. My initial thoughts on your bail is this number.
Right.
Can you afford that? Yes or no? Some people say, oh yeah, that's good. I have hilariously set bails that I thought were high, and the people are like, oh, that's it? I got that. I was like, okay, cool. Have a good evening. You're getting out. Like, no problem. It's such an interesting, they say, I got that. Okay, well, cool. And then other people, man, can you do 500? Can you do, and quite honestly, based on what you're accused of, yeah, we can work. We can negotiate it. Like, I'm not, because again, I'm not here to punish you. Right. I'm not here to punish you. Somebody else's job to punish. Right. And so I just want to make sure you go to court. And so we have let out for misdemeanor crimes, the statistics of people that we let out on pretrial, meaning they don't have to pay anything, have gone way up since we've done this new program. And I encourage people to pull those stats. There's an office, the pretrial office with the sheriff. Mm-hmm. If you ask them right, they will give you years worth of numbers, and you can really see that.
What do you think where Nashville can improve or what does cash bail look like for Nashville?
Yeah.
As we're trying to prove going forward.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because there's just this dichotomy. Some people want no bail, everybody gets out,
Right.
and other people want no bail, everybody stays in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you try to balance those two things because neither of them are really right. You know, there's always going to be a situation where somebody gets arrested and they have absolutely no reason they need to be on the street based upon what they are accused of doing and the likelihood that it's going to continue. They need to come and be in jail. And there's other people that absolutely don't need to be there. And why would we hold that person?
Has the pandemic made you all look at that like, okay, so these people actually need to be in jail, being in a pandemic, and really kind of shift things around?
Absolutely. Those numbers shifted greatly once they started, because the worst thing is to have COVID in the jail. And because then everybody's sick, and it's back when it was really scary back in 2020, it was like, nah, y'all get them out of here. They were trying very hard not to arrest people. Like I would be sitting there and like, oh, he must have really done something, because y'all citing people left and right. Like, you got marijuana, here's a citation. You assault, here's a citation. Like, they're not, don't come in here. You know. So it changed it, and I think that's good, because it shows. Because I don't think the numbers of who went to court changed, and so that shows a lot, right? Like, we don't need to arrest all these people because they're still going to come to court and still answer for whatever they're.
Unfortunately, it took a pandemic to show that.
Right. But hey, get what you get.
Right, get what you get.
I'm encouraged. It's such a hard debate. You could debate it left and right and for hours. We could go on hours.
So I'm gonna ask you another deeper question.
Yeah.
Being in the criminal legal system as a black man, and you know how we are. We hard on our brothers and sisters that's in law, any type of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Has your blackness ever been questioned while in
That's a great question. Only maybe once or twice. So I've been a judge in several different courts. So my first judging was in 8th Circuit Court. I was a special master. I did domestic violence cases, orders of protection, and I did child support cases. Then I did some probate work in probate court for several years, and I was a probate special master. I did some environmental court stuff. That's just, you didn't cut your grass, that sort of thing for a little bit. And then night court. So that's family law, probate law, criminal law.
You had been in
so
all of it.
I've been in a lot of different judges with different robes on and doing the thing. I can't think of any time where anybody no is ultimately my answer.
Okay.
And here's why. I really make it a point to connect with people. I don't treat anybody with disrespect. I don't care what you've been accused of or what, even if I think you're guilty. I've had situations with domestic violence cases where after some of the testimony comes in and the guy gets up, generally it's a guy that's the offender, gets up and starts explaining himimself rather to me. I know he did it. I can tell just his body language. The best thing I always knew, a guy would get up and say, Your Honor, I just want you to know, first of all, I love my wife. I know he did it. I have statistically.
Don't use that line.
I have statistically shown that the person that starts their sentence with "I love my wife," okay, you probably did do this thing, because that's what you say. The next word is "but," right? But she was acting out, and I had to show her. So I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, that's the next sentence. So,
oh man.
But even with those people. Even with those people, I'm not treating you like you're lesser than, or people get arrested, and I always pull them up. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? I'm here to just tell you what's going on, and I've put people in jail in child support court, and they have thanked me just because it was respectful. I'm not looking down at you. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not calling you out of your name. I'm not doing any of that. Like you already feeling it because I'm telling you what's going to happen, but I don't have to be disrespectful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good to hear, because especially I think black folks more than other folks, when we get in these positions, knowing the historical harm and current harm that our legal system has put on us just based off our skin color, it creates sometimes some tension when a peer or a person of the community gets into law enforcement, becomes a judge and things like that. It's but but it's also on us too to realize one, you all are here to represent all community members.
That's right. That's right. Not
all
just
taxpayers going to that.
That's
right.
right. That's right. That's
but
right.
also use it as an opportunity to better understand the roles that my community member, my family member, my brother, sister, whoever it may be, that looks like me, better understand what's going on and know that John doesn't control all of the system. Like he's not the system,
right? Just a piece.
He's just a piece. Just a piece. And he's not the one coming down on hard. But John has to be impartial. John has to
do what I have to do. Have to do what I have to do. And I think it's really important to be clear, right? Mm-hmm. I'm in a position where I know what's going on,
right?
And you may not. Especially in probate court. Probate court is one of those places where nobody seems to know what's happening.
Because
so we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But even in criminal court, it was a situation where you're being arrested, and you need to have that conversation. Some people needed to have that conversation. I don't understand what's going on. Can you explain? Okay, yeah, sure.
Right.
This is what I'll read you the warrant. I'll make sure you know what it says, and this is because of all of that. I tend to believe that probably happened because that's my burden of proof. And so I'm gonna keep you, or this is what's gonna happen from there on. And people, quite honestly, appreciate that.
Right.
Even in the midst of this horrible time,
right,
being arrested or losing your kid or having to pay child support and going to jail, people appreciate the explanation.
Let's talk about probate court.
All right.
Because that's the
one.
That's the one that you're running for.
Yeah.
Early voting is in April.
April 13th. That's right. Election
voting,
May 3rd.
May 3rd, right?
Yep.
So while I was looking into probate court, because again, I was like, I don't know what's going on in probate court, right?
Right.
And then you started seeing, this is where wills, trusts, deaths, and things like this. I was like,
Yeah.
I bet it's a lot of tension that happens in there because somebody dies. There's no paperwork on where things need to be allocated, who gets this. A lot of times, many families are not civil.
Correct.
In those type of things,
Correct.
especially when there's nothing, it's clear and it's laid out.
Right.
And so, talk to us about the importance of probate court.
Yeah.
And the importance of having some of the things that you will have to deal with worked out. And a lot of people don't like to talk about death.
That's right. It's true.
But,
it's true.
The importance of preparing for it.
Yeah. It's really important. And in my practice as a lawyer, I have prepared wills and drafted wills as well. So I end up telling people, you know what you want.
Right.
You're the only one that knows what you want. And one day you're not going to be here. And you're going to want what you want to happen. But if you don't write it down, no one will know.
Right.
And we have these laws in place that tell us what to do if you don't tell us. And we're going to do that. And if you're mad at one of your children because they never come by and they never did it, and you don't want them to get anything, you need to write that down because otherwise they're gonna get it.
Wow.
It's a percentage. It's just a
So that's laws.
Yeah.
So
that's intestate succession.
Right.
So
give us a scenario.
Absolutely.
Right?
So if you die with no will, no instructions as to what to do with your things. Say you got $1 million in the bank, a couple cars, a nice home, and you didn't write anything down. The cash is going to be divided up by your children, however many you have. Is there 4 of them? Each of them get a quarter of it.
Right.
Done. $250,000 to each person. Simple. No discussion. No concern as to whether you like that child, whether that child even saw you. You might have kicked him out of the house and never seen him again for 50 years. He's gonna get $250,000, right? It doesn't matter. Now, that's because that's really the only fair way to do it. We don't know your relationship with your family members. We don't know how. There's no real way to parse it out statutorily, right? The house, if everybody can't agree on what's gonna happen to the house gets sold because we're just gonna liquidate, right? If y'all can't agree, so and so gets the house, and we're just gonna sell it and divide it up because there's just nobody has the time or energy. Imagine you did that for every person, like it'd never end. It would never end. So we're like, well, if y'all can't agree, sell it.
Right.
Go. So you need to write it down.
Right.
You need to write it down, even if you don't feel like you have anything. My house is only worth $125,000.
Right.
I don't really have anything in the bank. I got a couple pieces of jewelry that I really like. And okay, well, what do you want to happen to that stuff?
Right.
Well, I think my niece should get the diamond ring. Okay, you better write that down, because I guarantee you, if you don't write it down, she's not gonna get it.
Wow.
She's not gonna get it because somebody else is gonna go in there and grab it.
Now, in these situations,
Yeah.
and I just started thinking about this stuff because I have a son.
Right.
I just had a son.
Congratulations.
So I'm thinking about, well, I got life insurance.
Yeah.
What if something happens to me or his mom?
Yep.
Like what happens, right? So I'm thinking about this, right? So important. But what I thought about, like, well, okay, like I know this is some legal stuff that has to be done.
Yeah.
But how much does that cost?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that you see that resources is a big deal when it comes to, or a barrier when it comes to people thinking about, I want to get a will, I want to plan this out, but I already don't have a lot economically.
Right. How am I going to afford this
How does
lawyer
So are there alternative resources?
There are so many ways. As someone who drafts wills, I don't always like to say this, but you can go online, and there are some resources that are low cost. That will get you there for most of the way, right? There's all the lawyer can do it perfectly, right? The lawyer gets you.
That's where y'all went to school.
Exactly
and
what you want to
training,
do, and we can write it all up and know what the judge is looking for when they see that will, and make sure it's exactly what you want. But if you just want to make sure basic things are done, you go online, you get your power of attorney. Right. You go online, you draft you a simple will, and you just worst comes to worst, to get your pen, and if it's in your own handwriting, we take that.
Right.
You date it. Make sure you date it and put it in your own handwriting, and okay, we'll do it.
Right.
But you got to do something. You just got to do something. And I know, like you said, resources become an issue. Right. But I have seen too many people fighting over very small estates, relatively. When I say very small, less than $100,000 estates, and they just are fighting. And at the end of that fight, who gets that money? Who do you think gets that money? The attorneys.
Right.
Because they just worked.
Right.
And worked, and at the end of the day, their bill is $30,000, $40,000.
So if elected probate judge, what are some of the ways, because like you said, many people don't know what happens in probate court, and the importance of being prepared for probate court, which is essential, I think. And I'll even say probably the less you have, the more essential it may be.
Agreed.
Because when you're coming from maybe a family that don't have generational wealth, and everybody's scrapping, and so everybody's trying to get what can I get anyway, right?
Sorry that mama died, but this could be my come up.
Right, exactly. What are some ways that you have in mind that you feel like you could really get out there into the community and inform community about probate and the importance of having some of these documentations and thinking about, death and loss, in a way that is going to, help them and benefit them, after they mourn and, after they go through the suffering and the loss that they may be feeling.
Right. One of the things my dad's office has done on and off is try to go into churches and do informational sessions, right? Mm-hmm. You get out here and just talk to the people. Right. And I think as much as I can as judge would like to do that as well. There's always going to be barriers because I'm the one that makes the decisions. Right. So I can't really get into specifics with you, but it would be great if I could just come in and really just generally advise the community. Like, look, this is what I do every day. You all need to prepare. Call somebody, or get somebody to help you so that when one thing I say about probate court is you don't need it until you need it.
Right.
You're going to be in here one day, unless you have it all written down perfectly.
Right.
You're probably going to come to probate court, right? So, get as much of it done as you can. The other thing that probate court does that people don't necessarily realize is conservatorships. So that's people who are maybe mentally challenged, physically disabled, can't do for themselves. You got to have somebody, generally a relative, step into your shoes for you. Pay your bills, make sure you get your medicine, make sure you're clothed and fed and housed and all those things. And those cases last the life of the person. Right. So if I have a child that's mentally challenged, that needs somebody to care for them, that child lives 60, 70 years, right? I mean, that's a conservatorship that goes that long, and probate court is the court that handles that. They've got a separate office of conservatorship management that sort of tries to govern that, but that's paperwork, that's regular accounting of things, because these are people that may be getting Social Security checks or getting some sort of assistance, and so making sure you didn't take that check and go buy a new car for yourself, or take a trip, or all these things that you're not supposed to do. You gotta monitor that, and that falls under probate court as well. So many things that are so important.
Yeah, and I really want to try to make this stick, because a lot of people, especially when it comes to when we talk about judges, general sessions are criminal, right? That's the sexy stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I really want this to stick with listeners and watchers, because like we all gotta go. And if somebody got the secret to found the youth,
not yet.
Yeah, we all have to go. And so I want you to take us through a little bit on really making this stick on how important your role would be to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do people have like gripes with the probate?
Oh yeah. You would think that no one would. I mean, what is it, but that person gets to make the decisions about, if you haven't written it down, that person's going to hear different people talk and say, no, I'm supposed to get that. No, I'm supposed to get that. And if it's not something that is clear statutorily, the judge has to decide, what happens to these things. And for example, if there is a family home, we talk about generational curses and generational wealth. And so maybe that's all there is this house. But if the three siblings can't agree on what to do with it, it's going to get sold. So you lose this asset that is a family asset, and maybe, that was the thing you slaved your whole life to get to. We have a home, we have property, we own land, and then you didn't write down what happens to it. I got to be the bad guy and say, well, if y'all can't agree, it's going to get sold.
As the bad guy.
If I'm the judge.
As the bad guy sometimes.
Yeah.
As the bad guy sometimes. What type of discretion do you have as far as how the laws and statutes are written in for a probate judge to kind of look at a situation, evaluate particular family members and things like that? And maybe not all the time go by percentages, because he or she is, how does that play into the discretion?
It's so tough. It's so tough, which is why it's so important to write it down. Because there are situations where, like I say, somebody hadn't been around for 20 years, but they're the heir, and the heir is the heir. And I can't change who the heirs are, and I can't say, well, this person's a jerk, so they don't get any money. No, I don't get to decide that. Now we can. It becomes more important when you have issues. For example, grandma gets sick. Everybody lives out of town except for this one grandchild. I'll take care of grandma. They do a horrible job. They get her to sign a bunch of stuff, and they're spending all her money while she's still alive, and then change her will so that person's the only person that inherits anything, and you get into sort of these disputes. And now we're talking about making determinations as to how good or bad a person is and what actions they've done. Then your discretion comes into play. But if we're just talking strictly about inheritance, if you don't write it down,
it's all up.
The legislature has decided.
Wow.
Right? And I don't have any choice but to do what the legislature says as far as your property and your assets. So write it down. And
so I'm gonna ask you this, and I don't know where this is going to go.
Okay.
Is there as a probate judge and in probate legislation, is there any implicit biases that benefits one group of people more than another, or does that does that exist?
Not as clearly.
Okay.
Right. So you're not when you nail it down to that point.
Right.
Probably not. But it's the bigger conversation of of what we have, and what the haves and the have-nots.
Okay.
Right? And I think the have-nots are the ones that suffer generally from lack of preparation and what the legislature has decided. If I got $10 million, then the percentage is not really such a big deal to me, right? If everybody gets, I was going to get 5, I guess I'll get two. That's still $2 million, right? I mean, so it affects the lower income community differently just because there's less to divide, there's less to put out there, and so you end up not really having much control over that. Your main control is on disputes and fights and trying to sort of keep the peace.
If elected probate judge, what are some of the ways you could help remedy some of those lack of preparations for the community that is underserved, low socioeconomic community? No, the ones that you kind of know, like, they're not going to be prepared because they're dealing with so much other stuff, along with finances, to probably even hire somebody that will allow them to be prepared.
Yeah. You have to be. I think the probate judge, and especially if I'm the probate judge, you have to be visible. Okay. We started this conversation with, I don't know what probate court does. Right. I don't know anything about probate court. Right. It's not even a consideration in my mind that I may end up there. Because why? Why? Right. This is a reality that is not like criminal court, where with criminal court, as long as I don't commit a crime, generally I shouldn't have to fool with them. Right. As long as I'm not causing accidents, I shouldn't have to be in civil court dealing with some auto accident case. You can kind of avoid the court system, but you can't avoid probate. Right. Because you end up not being there anymore, or your family member ends up not being there anymore. And unless they have it all written up so well that they have it so they don't have to come to court, you're going to be in court. That alone should tell you got to be prepared. Because it's coming. Right. And so put me in there, and that is something that I'm going to stress. I'm going to figure out ways. Do I know what they are yet? Probably not. But figure out ways to be visible, to be seen, to make sure people know I exist. Right. You need me. Right. Here's what you can do to help me help you when you get to the point where I'm needed. And then same thing with conservatorships. Conservatorships are so important because people don't realize the importance of caring for those people that can't care for themselves. And so that those two things are so important.
Man, I've learned so much.
Yeah,
because I've done my research, but like, again, as a person that has a child, as a person that's like trying to build a family, and knowing like, hey, I'm not gonna be here one day, and I may think I might be into 80, 90, but accidents happen, things happen. When do I? It's scary to think about.
Yeah, it is.
When do I start preparing to, like, well, if I was to go tomorrow, how are things laid out? No matter how much or a lot or less do I have, how can I make sure that it's clear for my family to understand and know they can have something to build on as well?
And it's not even so much about the money. Let me do this for you.
Okay.
Who's taking care of your child? What if you and your wife both gone?
We just had it.
You got a 2-year-old with no parents. What happens to that child? Is he going to go to orphanage, foster care, or grandma? Do you have a person in mind that you'd like to care for your child? You should tell somebody. I mean, these are conversations that no one ever wants to have. We're going to live forever, right? I'm not going to die. I'm young. I'm only 43 myself. I'm young. I'm not nothing's going to happen to me.
But we know it happens.
But it's going to happen. And maybe your kids will be adults and it won't matter. Or maybe it'll be tomorrow.
And potentially those people will have to come see you.
Yeah.
If things are not.
Yeah. Right. So if your child, say you do have some money, you have some means, you have some assets, you got one child, you pass away, that child is still a child. That child gets that money. That is that child's money. Right. Even the statute says, yes, that is that child's money. So you don't have an issue there. The issue you're going to have is you got a 4-year-old that can't do anything with that money until they turn 18. Right. In the meantime, somebody else is going to have to manage that money. Somebody else is going to have to make sure they get fed and clothed and housed with that money. You don't want the wrong person doing that. Wow. You don't want somebody in there with their hands deep in your pocket spending willy-nilly
And then when your
when your
gets
child,
18,
there's
they don't
nothing
have-
left. And then by then, what are you supposed to do? You can sue them, but you're not going to get it back because they spent it over the last 14 years.
You're not going to be here to sue.
And you won't be, but I mean, they could sue.
Yeah.
They could sue, but
Yeah.
it's gone. That money's gone.
Wow.
I took 10 trips with that. You can't get that money back. And so those are the real issues. The money is important.
Right.
The assets are important, yes, but who's caring for important people?
Right.
You got a grandchild out there, and your child died, and you're caring for the grandchild. You already are older.
Right.
That child's gonna need something written
Right.
down,
Right.
some instructions, somebody in charge, and that's what wills do. It's not just about assets.
Right.
Wills are everything. Wills are everything.
We don't have this conversation
No.
enough.
No,
Really,
it's scary.
It's scary.
It's scary to think about death. It's scary to be in a place where you have to consider, if I am not here tomorrow, who pays my bills, who cares for my children, who makes sure things are done.
Right.
It's super scary, but you got to have that conversation. You got to have it, and then you can be done. Have it, write it
Right.
down, and then move on.
This is a very unique judge role.
yeah.
It's very unique.
Very unique. And the volume, that's one more thing I'll say, and then I'll stop. We have the most probate cases in the state because of our population.
Right.
It's governed by population. More people are here, more people die, more people need probate court.
More people moving here.
More people moving here, conservatorships increase.
Right.
We also do name changes, emancipations. So many things are in probate court. And you got to have somebody that can handle that volume. I've been in criminal court. I've been in family court. I've been in probate court. I can manage the courtroom.
Right.
I know how to run a courtroom
Right.
efficiently. It's so important. It's so important. And even if you aren't there for 40 years from now, you don't want to end up in something that's broken by the time
Right.
you get there.
Well, John, man, I appreciate your time, and I
Thank
appreciate you dropping these gems.
Yeah.
I appreciate, letting us get to know you a little bit better,
Absolutely.
just your background,
Yeah.
and some of the challenges and barriers, and then of course just your history and your tenure with the criminal legal system here in Nashville.
Absolutely.
Any last words?
The election's coming. 8 years. These are 8-year terms. 8-year terms. 8 years ago, 25,000 people voted. Out of 400 and some thousand people, 25,000 people picked every judge in
Right.
Davidson County for 8 years. It's mind-boggling that you would let 25,000 people that. We had a good turnout of people that look like us, but they aren't the ones coming to court necessarily.
Right.
You want to be there. You want to be in the polls. You want to make your voice heard. These elections more important than president, more important than senator, U.S. senator, Congress people. These are the people that are day to day in your lives. If you need court, you got to vote.
Well, thanks, John.
May 3rd.
I hope y'all listening to it because I'm
Yeah.
thinking about what I'm going to write down
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Good luck
Thank you.
on the polls.
Thank
and,
you.
I'm looking forward to having you back.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know. I love it.
We
I had a great time, man.
We got to use this digital stuff now, too.
That's right.
To inform folks, especially around my age.
Yeah.
I'm 31.
Yeah.
And so, we might not be thinking about it.
Right.
But we got to start thinking about these things. right?
Absolutely. Just let me know. I'll be here. I'll
Okay,
be here.
sure.
Great time,
And
man.
We're going to
Thank
have
you.
you some pizza next time.
Yeah, there you go. I got it. Yeah, I'm mad. There's no pizza. This is cute over here, but there's no pizza on that plate. And I'm
All right,
hungry.
Look, we getting John up out of here now. All right, I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks.